Here we go. 9.1. What is leadership? So we define leadership as behavior and communication that influences, guides, directs, or controls groups. I'm looking for group leaders to step up and start making sure you get on the assignments and the projects, right? That you post your topics like everybody's supposed to. There's just a lot of things that are not happening that are required. So that's why I'm saying, like, you college classes, you don't do the requirements, that's how you fail. So, all right, trait perspective. So yeah, this is interesting. Are leaders born? Well, so intelligence, enthusiasm, dominance, self-confidence, social participation, egalitarianism, are all these qualities of a good leader? Well, yeah, they are. But more recent studies have found leading change to be related to creativity and social emotional competency in leaders. Other researchers found physical traits to be related to leadership ability. Leaders seem to be larger, like taller. That's actually very, very true. More active and energetic, more and better looking than other group members. So other researchers found that leaders possess tact, cheerfulness, sense of justice, discipline, versatility, and self-control. It's all wrong. So let's learn about what's really the answer. So 9.3 is let's learn about the functional perspective that group needs and roles. So the functional perspectives, because we need to perform a function as a group. And I'm being critical because I see a lot of stuff going on in the beginning of this class so far that is not functional of groups. If you don't get functional now, you're not going to get functional later because the assignments just get harder. So, all right. So that functional perspective examines leadership as behaviors that may be performed by any group member to maximize group effectiveness. Dean Bartlett and Franklin Hyman identify leadership behaviors as those that guide, influence, direct, or control others in a group. So the major leadership behaviors fall into two categories. Number one is task leadership. Let's get the task done. Number two, process leadership. This is where also called group building or maintenance. Task-oriented behaviors aim specifically at accomplishing a group goal. Process-oriented behaviors help maintain a satisfactory interpersonal climate within a group. Both types of leadership are essential. All right, so let's learn about task leadership. It's all about who initiates. Like I said, so far in this group, I don't see initiation. I see requirements for the class for groups to do that, to post messages, discuss things, and I just don't see that going on in the group discussion. So, and the outlines were good to bad. It was all over the place. Some of them were really good, some of them were really poor. So, so initiate. Get the ball rolling. That's up to you. It's like when you get out of bed every morning, it's up to you to initiate your day, right? You can stay in bed if you want to. So propose a change. Think about, what do we need to change, since so far we're not doing that well in our group, or maybe our group's doing really well, we don't want to change anything, and then we want to coordinate. So you need to communicate with other people to coordinate things, get on the same page, know what's going on, be on the same topic, developing the outline in a similar way, understanding building the slideshow using the similar font, similar color backgrounds, getting the group name in there consistently. Also, leaders summarize. So that's what I was saying, that in your group discussion you should be summarizing due dates, topic ideas, outline ideas, everything, just summarizing what everything's going on Discord, because like I said, you know, Discord's great, but I can't see any of that. So if you're not putting your group communication into your group discussion, you will feel the grade punishment at the end of the semester. So like I said, Discord's great for communicating, but I can't, it's verbal. So unless you put that into your group discussion somehow, I can't see it and use it. So it's not going to help you in this class for getting a grade. It may help you actually achieve your group tasks though. 9.2, let's talk about process leadership. So groups are composed of people have needs. In fact, the family is a small group specifically adapted to meeting individual needs. People not leave their needs at home when they come to a meeting, they actually bring them along. So effective group communication must be addressed to both the external task of the group and the needs of its members. So sometimes you're like, okay, let's do this assignment because that's our point. But other group members actually have other needs, like they need, you know, like friendship, or they need help with another class and that's stressing them out. So they're not doing well. They're not participating in this class, right? So you got to understand that group members bring their needs, which have nothing to do with the group, to the group. And if they're not met, those people don't tend to be very good group members. So leadership is about kind of understanding those needs and going outside beyond the task realm to the maintenance realm and saying like, okay, what do you need? How can I help you so you can be a successful group member? Failing to maintain a satisfying group climate can lead to a breakdown in a group's performance due to looking at the discussions and the way things are going. I don't see any group climate. That's what I'm talking about. I don't see that being developed. I don't see students trying to do that in their group. And that's all through communication in the discussion. So if you don't have 50 messages in the first 3 weeks of the class, you're doing it wrong. So some of your groups that have, for example, if we just go look at our Canvas page, I can show you what I'm talking about, right? So group three's discussion has 18 posts. It should be up to 50. Group four has 9. They should be up to 50. Group one has 3. That's fail. Group 5, that's 3. That's a fail too. That's nowhere near 50. That's not even F. That's like a Z minus. Group 2 has 1 post. Group 6 has 1 post. Group 6 actually though is, if you haven't figured it out, these are all the students I noticed that didn't know what the hell was going on, and I put them in a group together. So because I figure if you're gonna have a bunch of people who don't know what's going on, put them in a group together instead of putting them in groups with other people where they'll mess up the group. So so yeah, you can see that, yeah, group 6 is in group 2 also just nothing going on here. So that's bad, because this is what you get graded on. Even though, because remember, if you're doing work behind the scenes, I can't see it. It needs to go in these discussions. So I'm saying there should be 50 posts minimum in all 6 groups. So you can see all of you are failing. Even 18 is 1/3. So that's not even an F. That's like 33%. That's like a I don't know. I don't know. It's X minus. So yeah, boost it up, get that going, to get that fixed. And I will actually also, when I grade the group storytelling assignment, you're going to see that all the work leading up to it, which doesn't seem to be here, is going to be reflected in that, I believe. So, but we'll see. Can't make assumptions. I just grade them when I get them. So, but when I grade them and we get some grades that I don't want to give, we'll know exactly why, and I'm talking about it right now. So, all right, so let's go back to our lecture. So let's talk about enhancing climate, because I don't see any climate being built at all by the group. So first of all, it's about releasing tension. So again, like, who's posted a meme? I mentioned that 3 or 4 times in the video lectures. Do something humorous, crack a joke in the group discussion so I can see it, right? That helps relieve tension. Nobody's doing that. So that's why I'm saying nobody's building climate. You're recreating negative climate, because everybody goes there and says, nobody's checked in. I don't need to check in. That's what the group members are doing, as far as I can tell. Gatekeeping. This is coordinating discussion so that members can air their views. So just, ask the group members. Again, just in the group discussion, you're supposed to exchange contact information. You're supposed to greet each other. You should be linking your intro videos. So that's why you should be at least up to 50 posts. And then talking about your group storytelling topic, everybody in the group should have offered a topic, and you should have voted, and then you chose your topic. I don't see anybody doing any of that. I just saw kind of random groups choosing topics. And I also saw some topics that didn't even fit the assignment. I was like, yo, you don't want to turn in an X, and then you're supposed to turn in a triangle assignment, right? The X will never fit. You'll get it. That's not even an F. That's like a 0. Right. So that's what I'm talking about. Get the climate going. So release tension, get some gatekeeping going there, show some leadership, be encouraging of each other, and let's do some mediation. But I can't see any conflicts of anything going on. So there you go. So 9.4 is a situational perspective. It's about adapting style to context. So this is the situational perspective to group leadership, which accommodates all these factors. So it's leadership behaviors, task needs, and process needs, but also takes into account leadership style and situation. So basically what we're telling you, a good leader adapts to whatever the situation is, right? So the situations are very, very different, and the leadership needs for each of those situations can be very, very different. So it's all about being adaptive, right? So we'll learn more about that. Let's learn about the leadership style. So leadership style is a relatively consistent pattern of behavior reflecting a leader's beliefs and attitudes. Although no 2 people act as leaders in precisely the same way, people do lead in 3 basic styles. And number 1 is authoritarian or autocratic style. Number 2 is a democratic style. Number 3 is a laissez-faire style, which is French for hands off. So which is better? Well, study concluded groups with democratic leaders generally were better satisfied and function in a more orderly and positive way. So democratic leaders seem pretty good. Americans are used to that. Groups with authoritarian leaders were more aggressive or more apathetic, depending on the group. So if you have like a tyrannical boss, the group is either more aggressive or they tune out and they're more apathetic. So that's interesting. And then 3, members of democratic groups were better satisfied than members of laissez-faire groups, hands-off groups. A majority of group members preferred democratic to authoritarian, although some members were actually better satisfied in authoritarian groups. And that makes sense because you have some people who just want to be followers. They care nothing about leadership. They just want to be told what to do and then do it, and then they're happy, right? So everybody needs, and every group needs a couple followers, because if everyone's a leader, then you have a lot of conflict. So that works out pretty well. You don't want a group of all followers though, right? Because then there's no leader. Number 4 is authoritarian groups spent more time engaged in productive work, but only when the leader was present. Ooh, so the authoritarian groups can be productive, but that's only if the boss, the dictator, is there watching everybody work. So everybody's like scared of the authoritarian and their works hard. But as soon as the authoritarian's not there, you see that productivity goes down, right? So it's like the cops. With a cop turn on the road, no one speeds. If you don't see cops anywhere, everyone starts speeding, right? Is pretty much how it works, right? So, okay. Now, several studies have shown that no single leadership style is effective in all situations, right? So you need to be adaptive. What works at General Motors may not work in a family business. An effective student body president may be a poor camp counselor. The expectations in one group differ from those of other groups. So that's why you see that you really do want to be adaptive, sort of. So let's learn about transformational leadership. So this is kind of maybe one of the strategies that you want to learn and then employ eventually, because transformational leadership is a good thing. So first of all, let's learn what it is. So transformational leaders, 9.5, they strive to change, elevate, and unify the goals of followers, as well as inspire them to pursue challenging and shared objectives. As described in management and public administration literature, transformational leadership has 4 defining characteristics called the 4 I's. Number 1 is idealized leadership. Number 2 is inspirational motivation. Number 3 is intellectual stimulation. And number 4 is individual consideration. So contrasted with transactional leaders who clarify expectations, reward followers or employees for meeting them, transformational leaders motivate others to move beyond self-interest and work for the greater collective good. So management consultant author Peter Senge actually proposes 3 critical skills of transformational leadership. So number 1 is building shared vision. Vision is important. Have you ever seen the Tom Cruise movie where he plays the football sports agent? Where he's always like, show me the money. Gosh, I can't remember the movie. Jerry Maguire. He talks about, in the very beginning of the movie, he leaves the big sports agency firm to go on his own. And he talks a lot about his vision, right? And actually that's true. Good leaders need vision. You have to see the future and where the group's going and how they're going to do it. And it's not a dream or a fantasy, right? It's a vision, which is more specific. It's detailed. And it's not fantastical. It's reality based. So number 2 is surfacing and challenging mental models. So really looking at understand how mentally people approach group work. And leadership. And number 3, engaging in systems thinking. Systems thinking being very broad, holistic thinking, like you're always thinking about your cardiovascular system, not just your heart, but your arteries, your capillaries, your veins, the different parts of the heart, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, everything that actually goes into the cardiovascular system, instead of just worrying about your heart, right? So because you realize the whole system matters. So transformational leadership. So I love this. So 9.6, let's talk about emergent leadership in small groups. So emerging leaders show that sometimes leaders emerge rather than they're selected or they're like fighting for it in the beginning. So we have the studies called the Minnesota studies by Borman on page 143. It says that most groups actually do not select leaders at all. Now, Minnesota showed that leaders actually emerge through a method of residues, whereby group members are rejected for the role of leader until only one remains. So actually, Minnesota study says that leaders get rejected through a process of elimination until there's only one person left, and they by default become the leader. So survival of the fittest, right? The first members to be eliminated from consideration are the quiet ones who do not actively participate in the early stages of group discussion. So everybody, if I just go look at the group discussions again, right? The lack of participation, the lack of discussions in your group, which is kind of the itty-gritty of this class, which is why I'm like, y'all aren't doing very good, because that's the class and you're not doing it. But it shows you that leaders sometimes emerge, but the ones who definitely aren't leaders are the quiet ones, and the people who don't participate. So people don't post, people who don't, yeah, you're never going to be a leader. You're always eliminated first because you're perceived as lazy or not important or not skilled or not smart. I hate to say it, but that's true. And that's what I'm talking about, right? I just look at the discussions and I go like, wow, you see all these people don't want to be leader, lack of participation. And the next to go are the talkative, but over-aggressive or dogmatic group members who are perceived to be too inflexible for leadership positions. So the talkative, over-aggressive people, dogmatic people are eliminated next. And then after this initial phase of elimination, the group enters a second phase in which roughly half the group members remain in contention for the leadership role. This phase moves much more slowly than the first phase, and it's a good deal more painful and frustrating as these emerging leaders fight for leadership. One by one, the group rejects contenders for this leadership role until only one or two remain, and it reminds me of like the game Survivor, right? Winner takes all. So often members reject would-be leaders because their style is perceived as disturbing. Members often rejected an authoritarian style on the grounds that the person was too bossy or dictatorial. So you see that the bossy, dictatorial people get eliminated as a leader as well. So group members who often seem unable to contribute towards the task or the organization because they're quiet, vague, tentative, self-effacing, or always asking others for direction, they're also rejected as leaders. You can make the argument they're not even good group members, but right. People who always ask like what's going on and what do I do, those people are not that useful in life. You're going to find that true. Sorry, that's just, you have to have initiative. You need to ask yourself, what do I need to do? What's going on? And I need to figure that out. It's not like you're a baby and you ask your parents for help all the time, right? That's not how it works. This is college. This is an online asynchronous class. It's up to you to know what's going on. It's up to you to attend the meetings. It's up to you to watch all the meetings. It's up to you to read the textbook, right? It's up to you to do your group assignments. So there you go. Now, let's talk about men and women here for leadership. To some extent, groups with 2 or more men rejected female contenders for the leadership role. So you notice that when you have 2 guys in a group, they'll usually try and push the women out as leader. Groups containing only 1 man often select a female leader and isolated the man, a pattern that may be changing. Whoa. So if you only have 1 guy in the group, they often select a female leader and then kind of isolate the man. Again, it just goes to show this pattern of anytime you're a minority, you're treated differently. There's only one of you, and there's many of the others. And it's just the way the world works. It's the way human brains and culture work. We tend to be very, very, what we call like in-oriented, in culture. And then there's the out people, right? So there's always like who's in and then who's out. And then you kind of poke fun and demonize the out, and the in you glorify and you support and all that kind of stuff. So emergent leaders typically display more effective listening skills. They're better listeners, and they're also more extroverted. Good argument for how introverts, you can have a hard time because the personality doesn't fit a lot of what goes on in the business world. It's pretty much an extrovert's business world. Introverts, by the way, have a lot of strengths. It's just maybe not business though, right, necessarily. The verbal aggressiveness is not associated with leadership emergence, right? Verbal aggressiveness actually usually gets you rejected. So gender, can women be leaders? Absolutely, but for a long time in human history, we didn't allow that. So things are changing for the better. Here's what the research indicates. So problem-solving groups, both male and female leaders concentrate on task behaviors, but female leaders are slightly more responsive to the group's social, emotional needs. All right, cool. That makes a lot of sense, by the way. Males tend to talk more, which can increase their power, but women are equally effective in using evidence and making procedural suggestions how to do something, which are 2 critical leadership behaviors. So awesome. You see that both genders have skills that are predisposed to leadership. Generally, men and women lead equally well. However, there is some evidence that because of sex role biases, female leaders may need to perform better than their male counterparts to be considered as good as men. So you see that there's a bias built in there, and that basically female leaders who are just as good as male leaders, but when they're chosen, they actually have to do better than their male counterparts to be considered as good as men. They actually have to be better, right? It's not an equal playing field. So, but Lao Tzu, who wrote these words 2,500 years ago to wrap up leadership, they remain as true as today as ever. The wicked leader is he whom the people despise. The good leader is he whom the people revere. The great leader is he of whom the people say, we did it ourselves. So Lao Tzu is saying that, yeah, it's not about power, because that's a wicked leader. A good leader is great. But a great leader is somebody who says, we did it together, right? Wasn't like the king or the general or the leader did it. It's we all did it, right? And you think of like when you accomplish something like in your group, you can really say like, okay, did the leader really do this or did we do it? And if it's we, your things are going well. The leadership is doing a great job. If it's good, then you have a good leader. That's better than no leader or the wicked leader. But you're always looking for somebody who leads, but then it's all about us and we, not just me. All right, so on to chapter 10, making decisions and solving problems. So let's see if I can finish this in the next 20 minutes before I gotta go. So it's a snow day. The kids' school started late. It started at 10, so I got to drive them, which is why I got to leave, because ordinarily it starts at 8 a.m. and then I start this class at 9 a.m. But yeah, we by the way, we got about 1.5 feet of snow here at South Lake Tahoe. That's 6,200 feet. So up high, they probably got 3 to 5 feet. So it's a great start to the winter. Great start to fighting the drought in California this year. And great start for the ski season. Although I'm going to Sunnyvale this weekend, so I won't get to do any of that. But later on, and Thanksgiving should be fun too. So all right, so let's learn about chapter 10, making decisions, solving problems. So 10.1 is group decision making. It's about choosing among the alternatives. So D/M means decision making. It is the process of choosing from among several alternatives. All right, great. So decision making isn't only when you have one topic and you're like, let's go for that one. There's no decision because you only had one choice, right? That's why I want the groups. Everybody should be throwing ideas out for storytelling, informative speech, persuasive speech, entrepreneurial business idea, right? If they're not doing it, your group doing it wrong. And I didn't see anybody do that pretty much in the group discussions, right? Where everybody in the group suggested a topic. So for the informative speech, if I don't see that happening, you're not going to like your grade. That's all I'm saying, right? Because y'all are not doing what the class requires you to do. So again, I can't emphasize that enough. So, all right. So what are the steps? Number one, let's analyze the decision to be made. Do you have some foresight? Can you think about the future? Most human beings don't think about the future. They really, really just think about the present, right? Like if you were good, if you thought about the future, you would be so much more careful you'd be more healthy, you'd be, mentally and physically, you would make so much involved stronger decisions. But generally we make decisions just here and now. We don't always think about the future, right? So people wouldn't smoke cigarettes because you know that you're killing yourself if you smoke cigarettes, right? So if you really cared about the future, no one would smoke cigarettes. But people do because they don't think about the future, right? They just care about now. All right, so analyze all the decisions to be made, but try to have foresight. Think about what's going to happen in the future and how it affects the future. Number two, involve all members seeking information. So you need everybody in the group involved, right? Which is why in the group discussions I see lack of involvement, right? And I don't see people welcoming the group or getting the group members to get in. Number three, identify and clarify the goals of the decision. So just, what are we trying to do and what's the purpose behind the decision? Number four is group members then identify several options. You need multiple topics to choose from. So you could choose the best topic, not just one topic because it was the only one that you all came up with. Five, rationally evaluate the options. So go through a cost benefit analysis, what we call a CBA. What are the pros and cons of each of the topics? And then figure them all out and then figure out which one's the best topic, the one with the most pros. And then number six, after analyzing the data and the options, the group makes a decision, right? So are you doing these 6 steps when you're choosing your topics? So that's one of the most important decisions you got to make for each of the 4 group assignments, right? And I don't see any of this being done. And this needs to be done in the group discussion. So research suggests that very young and elderly group members tend to make less risky decisions for others. So very young or the old, they actually tend to be conservative and less risky, or what we call risk averse. The middle age group tends to be more risk tolerant. So, all right. So let's look at the 10.12, the methods of group decision making. So here are some ways you can decide. So first of all, you go by expert in the group. You're like, okay, we have somebody in the group who's an expert on this topic. So that's going to help us a lot. So we should choose this topic, right? Okay. So the expert helps decide. Decision by expert outside the group. This is where you're like, okay, let's consult an expert outside the group. Maybe we're going to do a informative group presentation on mental health. So none of us is a mental health therapist, psychiatrist. So we're going to consult some experts outside the group as to how we should talk about it. Like, what are the best ways to improve American mental health? Actually, gosh, what a broad, complicated subject, but definitely something we should do, right? Just everybody should try to help each other to be happy, not depressed, and understand that your mind is a powerful, powerful thing, and it can be a weapon. And it can be used against you if you don't use it for you, right? So random choice, that is a way to decide. It's not a good way to decide, but like flip a coin. You can also average individual ratings or rankings. So give every score, every topic, for example, in your case, a score. And then the topic with the best score is the one you all should choose, right? It's easy to research, it's fun, everyone knows a little bit about it. Maybe we have a group expert in place, whatever things. Majority rule. So you take a vote and most votes wins. Decision by the minority. This is where you let the smaller group of decision makers decide for everybody else. And then decision by consensus, which is where you have everyone on board and then everyone committed to the decision, which is not the same as everyone votes. right? Like a lot of people voted in the election last night, but they voted. I know a lot of people, they voted for somebody not because they really believe in that person, but because the other candidate they think is worse. So it's not that you're voting for somebody you like, you're more voting for the person that you dislike the least, right? And that's very different from voting for somebody you like the most. So consensus is very rare. We talked about that in chapter 8. It's hard to get. So tips for decision-making in groups. So number one, they use clear criteria. They know what good looks like, and they make a decision based on clear standards for a good decision. They start the decision-making process with the vision of what the final outcome will look like, right? And by the way, how do you have a vision for your assignments? Well, that's why I post the sample assignments there that other groups have done in the past, right? You have sample business presentations, you have sample storytelling presentations. And the idea is that you watch those and it gives you a vision of what your presentation might look like, right? But if you don't watch those or even use those, then that's another problem. Number two, they focus on finding high quality, useful information directly related to the issue at hand, rather than gathering a large amount of information just for the sake of gathering it. And number three, they break up big issues into smaller, more manageable issues to discuss. Yeah, so those are three big things that you want to do, right? So find good research. So number two, I might post an article in my group discussion, just say, this is a great article. I really think we should do our topic on this because this article gives us a lot of great research and a great starting point, right? So you're saying, I have an idea why we should make this decision because we have some great research already in place that helps us complete the assignment, right? And one group member found it and provided it for everybody in the group to take a look at, right? And then again, dissecting big issues into smaller ones. So 10.2, group solving, problem solving. Let's overcome the obstacles. There are a lot of them. So a small group of people has the potential of arriving at a better solution than do individuals working alone. Pretty much all the time. More brains, the better. Groups have more information. They're more creative. They surmount obstacles better than individuals do, and these advantages contribute to a higher quality decision. Right. So let's learn about 10.21 problem solving defined. PS problem solving. So problem solving is the process of overcoming obstacles to achieve a goal, whereas decision-making involves making a choice from among alternatives, right? So decision-making and problem-solving are very different. Problem-solving usually requires a group to make many decisions or choices as it identifies a problem and determines how to solve it. So a problem consists of three elements. Number one, an undesirable existing situation, right? There's a problem, something bad in status quo. Number two, a goal or a group wishes to achieve, a goal a group wishes to achieve. And number three, obstacles that keep my son just passed me a little note. It's 9:30, we gotta go to school soon. Yeah, wow, cool. Obstacles that keep a goal from group from achieving its goal. So problem solving allows a group to eliminate or manage the obstacles that keep it from achieving its objectives. So let's learn some 10.22. Barriers to problem solving. HALT, which stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. So when you or other group members experience these issues, if they're hungry is totally real, by the way. Angry, lonely, tired, those are the needs that people bring to the group that have nothing to do with the group. But if you don't satisfy those needs, the group members don't function very well in the group. So you're not functioning at your best. So it's advantageous to take a break and recharge and refresh before continuing. So make sure everybody go eat, take a snack, right? Like it's like soccer practice, water break. Everyone needs to go drink water, right? Just there are needs. And make sure people aren't upset about other things in their personal life. And it's not that you necessarily want to share these with the group, but you want to let your group members maybe know that there are things going on, which is why maybe you're not so focused on the group, right? So here's some other things that happen. Number one is a lack of structure. And I see this a lot because I just don't see the groups discussing anything at all. Group members wanted specific methods to help their group function more efficiently. So structure is good, right? Everyone has to suggest a topic for story time by this date. I saw no group do that, even though I talked about it over and over and over. If the professor says this is what you need to do, and then you don't do it, you need to understand that's why you're not going to like the grade that you're going to get, right? Two, I'm the leader of the class. Number two, lack of cultural sensitivity. So some group members were put off by biases, prejudice, sexist comments, and the failure of some to take cultural differences into account when interacting with others. So yeah. So just don't be that cultural insensitive dupe, right? So I'll give you a good example. I've had people who are like maybe a parent, single parent, and you have a kid in your life. That's a lot different from a 20-year-old with no kids just doing college, right? And trying to you have to appreciate that many of your group members are parents and have children. It's way different from just a 20-year-old who can stay up all night, right? Versus a parent who you can't do that at all, right? So just understand that people are different and don't throw out any of those biases, prejudice, and comments. Number three, lack of planning. So group members often were prepared or unsure what the focus of the group is supposed to be. I just see a lot of this right now, which is why I'm really scared in the sense that I'm going to hand out a lot of Fs. So because I don't see the groups planning very much. At least I can't see the planning. And then from the outline and just the way the groups are discussing, I don't see very much planning. And I keep telling you, the group's got a plan to be successful. So that's why I'm like, what's going on here? Number 4, by the way, I do notice some groups really get their stuff together after the first assignment though, right? Because it's like, you've a lot figuring out, you've kind of figuring out how people work. And so I get that. So that's why I said, I'm not gonna, I'm not angry, I'm not upset. I'm just like, what I see so far though, not good. So let's just make sure, let's make it good, right? So let's get some planning in there. Again, you should be writing the due dates in your group discussion. Don't assume the rest of your groups actually look at Canvas, because as far as I can tell, a bunch of the students, because I can actually tell who actually goes on Canvas, who logs on. It tells me, and I'm going to tell you right now, most of you don't spend much time on Canvas, and that's why I think we're having a lot of issues. And in a group class, think about it this way: you have 4 people in a group, but if one person checks in on Monday, another person checks on Thursday, the other person checks in maybe, who knows, you can see how the group's not going to communicate, right? Because everyone's checking in so periodically that when they leave a message, no one answers, and there's like 2 days gap. And that's why a lot of the groups seem pretty confused. And I have group members emailing me like, what's going on? I'm just like, wow. I actually told people, you should drop at this point in time. If you don't know what's going on, you should drop, because you're not going to figure it out, because you didn't figure it out in the beginning. You're not going to figure it out now. You're just going to make your group really annoyed at you, because you never know what's going on. And then number 4, but you're part of the group, right? So, and then, because again, you get a group there, a group grade. Number 4 is lack of resources. Sometimes groups had to meet in an inadequate physical space, or just didn't have all the information and technical support to get the job done. So yeah. So how many of you, for example, have actually reached out to everybody in your group to go meet face to face, right? I would like proof of one person in my class that have actually done that. And as far as I can tell, nobody's done that. And it's a great example of why y'all are maybe seem like you're failing, because you didn't even do some of the basic steps that are really, 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 that goes beyond academics, right? Because I know there's online class, you don't have to meet in person, but should you meet in person? Could you meet in person? 5, wrong people were present. The key people with authority and information weren't involved in the discussion. Again, that's why you see when people only periodically check in with a group, you're never going to have everyone there when you need them, right? So that's just a recipe for total failure. Time pressure. Groups felt pressure to achieve immediate results and to tell those in authority what they wanted to hear. That actually happens a lot. You find out there's like a requirement for the new work group to do this, and they don't do it, and then they don't tell anybody they didn't do it because they're afraid they're all going to get fired, right? Which is actually a good reason to make it just worse. So, but maybe you shouldn't have effed it up in the first place, right? That way you don't have to tell the authority what they want to hear. You tell them what really happened, right? Poor communication, number 7. Misunderstandings, inattentiveness, that's the big thing I'm noticing here. Dominance, for all reasons, is ineffective communication. So I see super poor communication going on in our group discussion. So that, again, group discussions are the key to this class. So when like I said, I'm thinking 50 posts just into the 3rd week. By the end of the class, there should be about 200. So if your group discussion doesn't get up to 200 messages and you get a B, C, D, or F, you know why in the 3rd week, right? Or 4th week, sorry. So yeah, just poor communication going on. Unsupportive social climate. Group members sometimes did not feel they were cozily working together, and they cannot support or trust one another, especially if you don't communicate, right? Or people are just inattentive. Number 9, negative attitudes. Some group members weren't flexible or unwilling to compromise, had unrealistic expectations with the group. So yeah, I don't know if you've encountered that yet. Just somebody who's always like the negative Nancy. We can't do it. We're going to fail. Last time we tried this, it didn't work. This person's not reliable. Is always bringing negativity. Remember, positive optimism and support is really, really important in a group. Negativity is like cancer. It spreads and just eats the group alive. Cancer will kill you. It'll kill group too, right? And it spreads. Cancer just grows and grows and grows. So number 10 is lack of problem solving skills. So group members tend to focus on the solution before defining the problem. Let's look at the topic rather than let's just, instead of actually thinking of what's a good topic that fits this assignment, which I did see happen a lot of times, right? I asked some of the groups, like, why did you choose this story? Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a good choice. So how did you come to it? Like, is it random? You didn't have any other better ideas? Right? That's why you're like, I can tell you didn't think about this very much. You just chose it. And it's, again, a square peg won't fit in a circle or triangle. And I know people all the time, they take the square peg and they just try and jam it in the circle, right? Or the triangle. That's their strategy. By the way, remember, Albert Einstein, he said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So just cramming a circle into a triangle over and over and over, right? It never fits, but they keep trying. Again, according to Einstein, you were insane. And part of me is like, I want to stay the hell away from you because insane people are scary and unpredictable and just, yeah, a lot of nothing good about them, huh? All right, so 10.3, three approaches to group problem solving. And I have 5 more minutes, so I'll get out of here. So number one is the descriptive approach. This approach identifies the typical patterns of communication that occur when people interact to solve problems. Okay. Number 2, the functional approach. This approach identifies key task requirements and stresses the importance of effective communication as major factors that contribute to effective problem solving. So again, effective communication, key task requirements, topics, due dates, right? Outline, video presentation, slideshow. All these things should be put out in the group discussion by the leader, ideally, right? And number 3 is the prescriptive approach to problem solving. This approach identifies specific advantages and techniques to improve group problem solving performance. So just like a medical prescription, you get a diagnosis, you get a medical prescription, you get a drug, you take it, hopefully it makes you better, right? So prescriptive versus let's figure out what's wrong, figure out like the solution or remedy, and then implement. Finish. So let me just go another minute or two. Virtual groups. So although the use of virtual team communication continues to grow, we apparently still like to connect face-to-face if we're scattered in many locations trying to solve complex problems. So one study found that the more different locations virtual team members are in, the more likely is they'll want to periodically connect face-to-face rather than to use only virtual communication channels. So wow, virtual groups. They actually found that like if you're more spread out, and you all are, because you're all probably in San Jose or Santa Clara County, all of you are, right? But the more spread spread out you are on a virtual group, they actually want to periodically meet face-to-face to keep the group cohesive and successful, even though you're an online group. Again, can't emphasize that enough. You're a virtual group, but virtual groups often need to see each other face-to-face to really make things communication work and to make the group successful. That's what I'm telling you. If you all have not met face-to-face, why haven't you? Is it because you're lazy? You don't care? You want to fail? Because you're not doing what you need to do in order to be successful. Another study found that when working, and by the way, I would meet face-to-face and I would pound out my storytelling topic, informative speech topic, persuasive speech topic, and the business idea. Why not? You're all there, get them all down. Everybody knows what we're going to do already and get it all decided in one face-to-face meeting. And you got a lot of the work already done right there, but you got to be face-to-face. You have to actually meet your group members and know how to contact them. And I have group members who've told me, I don't know how to contact my group still. So and remember, what's the first step that you're supposed to do? Meet and greet each other and exchange contact information. Yeah, so phone numbers, join a WhatsApp group, Google user group, get on Discord, but like I said, on Discord, record all the text and then print, post the text of the Discord chat onto your group messages to make sure you get all the messaging there, right? 200 messages at the end of the semester is what an A group gets. B's is like 100 messages and up, and then below 100 you're looking at C, D, F, right? And if you've only got 1, 2, 8 and 4 weeks in, that's what I'm telling you. The number of messages in your group discussion, if it's not where it needs to be, you're going to see a bunch of problems with your group. Great. So another study found that when working in virtual groups, some group members connect with other virtual group members outside the group using instant messaging. So yeah, so you don't have to text the whole group. You can just text a couple people in the group or just one person in the group a lot. That's a great way to just get some basic communication going. These instant messages, text messages aren't directed at everybody, but just another member or two. They can actually help manage group conflict too. Because you can talk about like what's going on, maybe what you think. Do you think this person's being a problem too, or is it just me, right? Or is it maybe just I have a personality conflict with them and not with the group? So advantages. And on this slide, virtual communication methods seem to work best for more structured linear tasks. Okay, and that's I think the assignments that you have here are more structured linear tasks. Number 2, in computer-mediated meetings, the ideas of everyone can more easily and accurately be captured and recorded. So that's good because remember, if you meet on Zoom in your group, you can record it, and then everything that's said or written is recorded, which is useful for later on down the road, right? And then and I would post those transcripts in the group discussion because you're having a Zoom meeting of your group, right? How do I know what happened in the Zoom meeting? Put it on your group discussion. And the virtual groups often generate more ideas when brainstorming than face-to-face groups. So yeah, do some brainstorming. We talked about how to do that in chapter 5. Has your group done any brainstorming? If you haven't, that's one reason maybe you're not doing so well. And you need everybody there to brainstorm them too, right? And then disadvantages. The increased speed of information transfer allows less time for reflection and evaluation of ideas. Technology makes everything better, but also it helps us make mistakes faster, right? So it speeds up the process, but there's problems with doing things fast because there's a saying: fast is smooth, smooth is slow, right? No. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Something like that. So you'll get it there. Okay. And then some group members do a less thorough job of evaluating the pros and cons when using computer-mediated technology rather than when they're versus interacting in the face-to-face setting. So I'm going to stop here. I'm at 10.1033. Type that out. 33.